Hey, Patrick, go ahead.
All right, welcome everyone to the July 2022 meeting of Manhattan Community Board 1's Land Use, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee. I'm Patrick Cannell, chair of the committee. I don't see Laura Starr, our co-chair, with us, but perhaps she'll be joining us shortly. We have two items on the agenda tonight. I'm speaking fast and going to go fast because we're starting our meeting a fair bit late. We have two items on the agenda tonight, both of which are really updates. So I'm going to ask members of the committee when the presenters have finished, and we have asked the presenters to keep their presentations limited as much as possible. I'm going to ask members of the committee to remember, please, please, please be conscious of time, others' time, your own time, and try to get to the heart of your questions, and let's avoid the sort of speaking questions and speeches that sometimes our questions turn into. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our first presenter from the Empire State Development Corporation for 5 World Trade. Is Toby with us? Or whoever may be presenting.
Toby's here.
Toby, you want to tee it up?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Patrick. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to participate in tonight's Land Use Committee meeting. I want to be respectful of everyone's time and the agenda, so I'm going to jump right in. This is an overview of my presentation tonight. I'm going to give a quick project background, recognizing that there might be those who this is their first time being introduced to the World Trade Center Site 5 development project. Then I'll give a quick background on the previous public approvals, provide some updates on upcoming actions by the LMDC and ESD directors, walk us through the tentative public approvals process moving forward, and then restate our commitment to ongoing public engagement. Again, just quickly, my name is Toby Jayasimi, Assistant Vice President of Community Relations and Real Estate for Empire State Development, the state's economic development agency. World Trade Center Site 5, located at 130 Liberty Street, is a location of the former Deutsche Bank building, which was severely damaged during the 9/11 terrorist attacks. LMDC, which is the Lower Manhattan Development Corp., used federal community development block grant funds to acquire, remediate, and clear Site 5. And in 2004, the World Trade Center General Project Plan contemplated commercial and/or hotel use for Site 5. This is a map that just shows the location of Site 5 next to Liberty Park. Providing just additional background to better understand the proposed project that I'll be discussing shortly, I'll note that in February 2006, there was a memorandum of understanding between the Lower Manhattan Development Corp. And the Port Authority, under which the Port Authority agreed to provide parcels that it owned at the center of the campus within the footprints of the Twin Towers to allow for the development of the 9/11 Memorial and the 9/11 Memorial Museum, the Performing Arts Center, in exchange for Site 5, which were owned by LMDC. In 2019, another memorandum of understanding was executed between LMDC and the Port Authority to issue an RFP for Site 5 to allow for either commercial use as of right or mixed-use development, which would require further modifications to the general project plan. In June of 2019, that RFP was released. And a few times later, in February of 2021, there was conditional designation of a development team for a proposed project that would include rental residential housing with 25% permanently affordable units, office, retail, community facility, and a direct connection to the adjacent Liberty Park. So since conditional designation, about 15 or 16 months ago now, we've had a number of key actions related to the project. Back in November, the LMDC and ESD directors approved the start of the public review process for the proposed modifications to the general project plan. In December, the necessary public notices were issued. In January, there was a virtual public hearing and a comment period that followed through February. And then in April, the LMDC and ESD directors approved the proposed modifications to the general project plan to allow for residential use at the site, in addition to the already approved commercial use. This coming week, next week, on July 19 and July 21, the LMDC and ESD directors will be meeting to take action to start the public review process for the proposed project. The materials, which will be made public before the meeting, will detail the proposed modifications to the general project plan related to the zoning overrides for the proposed project to allow for residential use, the site disposition, which would be LMDC transferring the site to ESD, ESD acquiring the site, and then the proposed lease for the project with the conditionally designated developer, including the essential terms of the deal, some proposed draft mixed-use design guidelines to govern the development of the site, and also the necessary initial agreement with the conditionally designated developer. I'd like to note, as emphasized on this slide, that this is just a start of the public review process for this project and not an opportunity for there to be final approvals, which I will describe a little bit later. Understanding that affordable housing has been a key part of the discussions related to World Trade Center Site 5, just wanted to emphasize that the project as introduced, as will be presented to the ESD directors and the LMDC directors, will deliver approximately 1,200 residential units, of which a minimum will be 25% permanently affordable housing that will be leased to households making an average median income of 50% of AMI. This presentation or this action by the LMDC and ESD directors does not in any way prohibit there being further discussions with regards to increasing affordability at the project site or other discussions related to the proponents of the proposed project. What it does is it allows for us to actually start the process and to engage into the key actions that I'll lay out for you shortly related to the approvals process for the project. The affordability for the project, again, would be governed by the modifications to the general project plan, which require that if there is mixed-use development at Site 5, it include a minimum of 25% permanent affordability. There will be an affordable housing regulatory agreement that would be administered by HCR, which is New York State's Affordable Housing Agency. Homes and Community Renewal is what that acronym stands for. And also a restrictive declaration that would be filed on record for the site, noting the requirement for permanent affordability. So stopping here, I just wanted to walk through what the tentative public approvals timeline would look like as we walk through the next steps after July. Again, next week on the 19th and the 21st, the LMDC and ESD directors would take action related to the start of the public review process for the World Trade Center Site 5 real estate transaction. The materials for those meetings will be, of course, posted on the respective websites for each entity. And sometime in the summer, we expect to issue the public notice at least 30 days in advance of what would be the public hearing to be able to inform members of the public, the community, and also key stakeholders about the proposed project. And then in the fall, there'd be a public hearing which would allow for members of the public to be able to provide live oral comments on the proposed transaction during the hearing. And then what would follow would be at least a 30-day comment period that would allow for written comments on the proposed project, either via email or by mail. The details of both the public hearing and the comment period are not yet finalized. And so once available, that notice would be published in printed news. It would be posted on LMDC and ESD's websites and also distributed to the key stakeholders, of course, including Community Board 1. So the public is made aware of the actions. But at this time, I don't have the specific dates or details for the public hearing. After the close of the comment period, there will be an opportunity for the project team to review all of the comments that are received to make the necessary changes to the draft documents that are being proposed, and to prepare to present the real estate transaction to the LMDC and ESD directors for approvals. What would follow after that, at a to-be-determined date, would be a presentation, again, a public presentation to the LMDC and ESD directors for final approvals on this project. We expect that that would take some time. I'd like to emphasize again that with the start of the public review process for this project, it does not in any way close the door to ongoing discussions related to the proposed project or the development at the site. I'd like to note continued public engagement on the project and through the public review process, including, of course, presentations to the World Trade Center Site 5 Community Advisory Committee, the CAC, presentations before Community Board 1, of course, and ongoing meetings with stakeholders and local elected officials, including, of course, the World Trade Center Site 5 100% Affordability Coalition, and other members of the community. I feel like I ran through that rather quickly, but wanted to be able to afford time for the other agenda item, of course, noting that we started a little bit later than anticipated, and also to be able to respond to questions and comments. On the screen is my email address and also that of the Community Affairs Director on the project as well. My name, of course, is Toby Jayasimi, but my full name is Oluwatobi. .jayasimi@esd.ny.gov. My colleague Francisco Polanco can be of assistance as well. I'm going to stop sharing so that I'm better able to respond to questions and comments as directed by the chair.
Thanks, Toby. Very well done. Really appreciate the succinctness there. Let's go first to committee member questions and then to members of the public. I see no committee member hands up, so I'm going to go to the public and I'm going to go to Mr. Todd Fine. Todd, are you able to unmute?
Yes, thank you. I'm Todd Fine with the Coalition for 100% Affordability. I'd like to remind Community Board 1 that they passed resolutions saying that this building should be more than 25% affordable, including up to 100%. So this is a slap in the face of Community Board 1, especially given that early on in this process, over a year ago, there was discussion about going above 25%. And even the ESD and the development team said that they were exploring that. So the failure to go any higher than 25% or to increase, community space, any of the concessions that CB1's demanded, is a slap in the face of Community Board 1. And to move forward with this is an insult to this community and to the city. And I hope tonight you'll pass a resolution condemning this act of having a board meeting approving the real estate transaction next week. I think that's not enough time. I'd also like to note that every single candidate, including Rivera, in the congressional race, have opposed this plan, and almost every local elected official, including the current congressperson, the state senator, have opposed the plan. So it's a unilateral act by the governor to support the vision of this private developer that does something in the interest of this community. And I think Community Board 1 needs to stand up for itself tonight and reiterate its opposition in a resolution. I think that's very important that it's done, given that that is Community Board 1's expressed position. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Lucian, I saw that you put your hand up, and then I see, Tammy, where'd you go? I thought you had yours up as well as Justine. But let's go to Lucian first, and then Justine, and then Tammy, if you still wish to comment.
Thank you, Patrick. As many of you know, Diana has left her office, and that leaves a bit of an information gap. I'm trying to do my best to catch up, so please forgive me if this question's been covered in a previous meeting. But in terms of the breakdown of the 25% affordable units, it's currently contemplated in the presentation. The different levels of affordability in MIH, it's my understanding that those are chosen by the council member. In this case, how did you determine that breakdown of affordability for those 25% set aside units?
Sure. So the project is being introduced at a minimum of 25% permanent affordability. the MIH model was considered when the details of the RFP was actually included in distribution. And so there was an opportunity to take into consideration the various city programs that were available, MIH being one of them, and looking at the approximately 300 units of affordable housing that would be delivered here. So right now, the range would be that the average would be 50% of AMI, with 10% of the units, at least 10% of the residential units being leased to households earning income at or below 40% of AMI, another 10% to residents earning at or below 60% of AMI, and then none of the units could be leased to households earning more than 80% of AMI. So that's where the range and the distribution of AMI that is currently proposed for the minimum of 25% affordable housing. And again, the action in July does not in any way limit the opportunity to increase affordability at the project. If anything, allows for there to be ongoing discussions about what the final approvals for the project would be. The July action just starts the public review process for the proposed project and provides the opportunity for the public and key stakeholders to respond to what's been presented.
Thanks, Toby. Justine?
Okay, so I wanted to make a comment, but I also, Toby, thank you for your presentation. It was succinct and quick, and that was lovely. But I'm so confused. First you said 50% of AMI, then you said a percentage at 30, 40, and then not more than 80. Which is it, or is, like, I don't understand.
Sure. Apologies for the confusion if my presentation
No, it's
wasn't
probably
clear.
me.
No, it's all right. It's been a long day for all of us. So the proposed project of the approximately 1,200 units, a minimum of 25% would be permanently affordable. So
Right.
approximately 300 affordable units. So
Right.
of that 25%, at least 10%, this is where we get the average of 50% AMI.
Oh, I see. So the average is an average of the 30%, 40, 50.
Yeah, the average, the 50% AMI average comes from a mix of at least 10% being leased to households earning at or below 40% of AMI, another 10% at or below 60, and none of the units can be leased to households earning more than 80% of AMI.
And all of that is being subsidized at this point, or it's planned to be subsidized by what funding? Do we know?
Right, so there is no public funding right now for the proposed project. It's being delivered at only the proposed, I guess, tax benefit that the developer may be able to have access to, but there's no state, federal, or local funding that's being provided to be able to deliver, or financing rather, to be able to deliver these 25% affordable units. Again, with the action, it doesn't close the door for us to be able to consider if there are programs that are presented that would be able to support increased affordability at the project. We're just introducing the project for the start of the public approvals and public review process at a minimum of 25% permanent affordability.
And that wouldn't, and at that proposal, so I'm trying to understand. So saying it that way, the developer, any developer that bids on this and gets the contract, they would have to absorb the cost of the 25% somehow, some way. And if we went to, if that's a yes, if we went to 30% or 40 or 50 or whatever, that state money, federal money came in to subsidize it, that would not go to, could that come in and then be on top of?
Yes, there
Okay.
is and just to
So am I
clarify.
making sense even with what
No,
I'm
you
saying?
are. You're making sense. I just want to clarify that the proposed project is with a conditionally designated developer. However, if for some reason there is a change in development firm, there is still a requirement in the general project plan that if a mixed-use development is built at Site 5, it has to have at least a minimum of 25% permanently affordable units, right? And so if there is between now And well, between the start of the approvals process, because the ESD and LMDC directors would have to start the process, which is what the July action is, between the start of the process and as we work through the public hearing and the public comment period, and before we go for final approvals, there is the opportunity for there to be either state funding, federal funding, an alternate source for additional funds. It would be on top of the already presented proposed 25% for the project. So the opportunity is for there to be an increase in affordability at the project, not for it to go below the 25% threshold.
That makes sense. And that would be, okay, so I'm hearing you say, and I'm sorry to harp on it.
No,
but
please. I'm
clear. I'm hearing you say that once at this point, what you're proceeding forward with is 25% permanently affordable. Anything that we can bring in from state, federal, anyplace else, private, who knows where money would come from, that the Coalition for 100% Affordable would bring in, would go to increase the affordability as a subsidy to make the developer whole, but would never touch whatever was below that, because that's going to be something they absorb and work into their.
Right, that's already part of the proposed project. And of course, proposed 25% affordability is at the mix of AMI. If there's a change to AMI, or if there's a request for a different structuring and formatting that might change the finances of the deal, then that would be part of the conversation related to the proposed changes to the project.
Sure, no, that makes sense. And so part of okay, so then I will go now to what Todd Fine said and say that considering there's been so much opposition from politicians, elected officials, and the community at large, and we've got so many people to sign on to our coalition to object to this being anything less than 100% affordable. What is the big rush at this point to have to go forward?
Sure. Before answering your question, I'd like to take a step back and just note that we have come before the board since conditional designation back in February. So it's been a year and a half of this discussion. And we've been responsive actually to what we've heard from the electeds and from the coalition through continued engagement with key stakeholders. I'll note that back in the fall, when we first considered starting the approvals process for this project, it was initially to do both the modifications to the general project plan as well as the approvals for the real estate transaction. And instead, we bifurcated that process to first start with the proposed modifications to the general project plan to just allow for there to be mixed use development considered at Site 5. If not, the proposed project would have to be a commercial tower, which is what at that time was approved under the GPP. And so we've taken the time to be able to instead start the approvals process or the review process for the proposed project at a minimum of 25% affordability, and to then continue the engagement related to it. I don't know if rush would be the right word to use, but I think the reason why we think it's important, part of the reason why we think it's important to start the process is one, because of the timeline that I showed earlier. This just takes a matter of months, at least, to be able to go through the noticing, the public hearing, allowing for there to be significant time and opportunity for public comment, and then to prepare documents that would be reflective of what we've heard through the process. So just the timeline alone is part of a key reason for it. The second, as I'd mentioned as part of background on the project, is that LMDC used HUD Community Development Block Grant funds to be able to acquire Site 5. And those funds were first issued many years ago, and the grant remains open. And HUD has directed that there needs to be closure of that grant, and it's anticipated that LMDC itself would need to close and dissolve and ESD assume its responsibilities, hence why the ESD would be acting as landlord for the proposed transaction. And so that's also, considering the timeline will take some amount of time, right, for us to work through. So it's recognizing that we have the direction to close out the grants and to also close out LMDC, and also noting the approvals process for the project. And then lastly, I'll note that whatever form of final project that is approved for Site 5, in whatever capacity, the anticipated development of that project would take at least 60 months. So we're looking at a 5-year development project. And so the longer it takes for us to be able to get to final approvals, the longer it will take to start development, which means the longer it will take for the delivery of affordable housing for the community and being able to get that online. So there are a number of different factors that are being taken into consideration. And again, I usually sound like a broken record when I come here, but I'd like to emphasize that this July action does not in any way close the door on continued conversation about increased affordability and other project elements on the project.
All right, Toby, Justine, I got to jump in.
Yeah.
Justine, we have to let others have a turn to get some questions in. So
Sure.
thank you for yours.
And
Mariam, thank you. Mariam, I noticed you had your hand up in the public part and then we're moved over to attendees. Did you have anything you wanted to ask? Give you a second to put your hand up or unmute. If not, I'm going to move on to Tammy. Mariam, we can, oh, yep,
Yeah.
meeting. Go ahead.
I did want to just remind the fellow board members that the last time a similar proposition was made by the LMDC, that they were just going to simply vote on modifications and revising the zoning from commercial to residential, that it was I and Todd and Jill and Richard who had to point out that no, if you read the wording, this is really specifying that Silverstein is definitely going to be the developer and that the materials that he's chosen are definitely going to be what's used. And that is what is creating the increased pricing, because they're not leaving it open for anyone else to do. So I would just remind everybody of that and suggest that we go through their agenda. They post their agenda publicly, and they tend to post what it is they're going to discuss. This is where we found it last time, on their website, or on Port Authority's website, and that's where you can find like the details and the specifics as to what they're going to vote. And if, as Justine suggested, it does not support perhaps a different developer or different materials being used or increased affordability and truth, that we do react in some way. I understand that it may not be time for a resolution, as Todd suggested, even if we did it at exec. I mean, that would be after the 19th, so it would be too late to, and the full board is going to be, of course, well after that as well, so it would be too late. But since we did already pass a resolution, we might be able to at least write a letter. And I also suggest that we recommend to all of the officials in our neighborhood who do support the project and have the 100% affordability. For full disclosure, if anybody's watching that doesn't know, I'm actually the founder of the coalition. That they also write a letter and or testify at the LMDC's public meeting on the 19th. Thank you.
Thanks, Mariam. Tammy, then we're going to go to Richard, and then we want to move on to our next topic. So Richard, you'll get the last word after Tammy.
My call out was going to be for every single board member that we have to go for July 19th and sign up to speak. Hands down, no matter what we do as a board, they need to see the diversity, depth, and breadth of the concerns that we have as a community beyond what we can do as a letter from the chair to attach to a formal resolution, which I do think that we can do. I am not opposed to doing a resolution tonight, because while I appreciate the separating of the actions to provide more public engagement and transparency in the process, I don't think we've actually gained anything. Simply because we don't have a commitment, a ground floor commitment yes, it says the word minimum. But nowhere in the documentation that I've seen does it say minimum with options to maximize, right? There's just nothing in there that gives you any sense of assurance for the community or for the constituency at large. Remember what we're talking about. We're not talking about 300 affordable units. What we are talking about is 1,400. Do I have my number right, Toby? Luxury units. It's 1,700.
1,200. It's 1,200 resident, approximately 1,200 in total.
Okay, so we're talking 1,200 luxury apartments. So we shouldn't be focused on the minimum of 25%. We should really be looking to find, the absurdity of our neighborhood adding 1,200 luxury units. It is just absolutely not tenable. It does not solve any of our issues for congestion, to get people who actually work here to be able to live down here. 300 is not even a drop in the bucket for what we have lost. It doesn't cover what's been lost in Battery Park City. It doesn't cover what's already been lost with 421A expiring in FIDI and other places. This is HUD money. This was supposed to rebuild our community after 9/11. There is no doubt in my mind that this is not right. Now, they need to hear it. It's good that everybody who's running for office agrees with us. I'm delighted. But we really need the people at the Port Authority, because Silverstein does not care. Silverstein does not want a fully affordable building. And the way they presented things in the CAC meeting was they brought in Omni to manage the affordable housing units, primarily because not for repair and maintenance or differences supposedly in any of that, but because the back end paperwork is so difficult to manage. Okay, well, maybe we should be managing it for a much larger number and find some kind of parity. So I am happy with whatever direction the committee wants to go, whether it's a resolution tonight that says not enough as a base, and that we want to leave the door open for other opportunities. If it becomes possible to be 100% affordable and this developer does not wish to participate in that, having the door open to be able to find developers who will is more important to me. So that's my piece on that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Going to Richard. You'll get the last word.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. And Toby, I do want to recognize that, you know, we have to appreciate the equanimity that you bring to these board meetings. This is a very difficult issue, and we respect that. I certainly do. That being said, I have a question, and then I will just, with brevity, support what has been said here already. The question is, to begin that question, you answered about why we are moving forward in this timeline and the time that it has taken up till now. And it does seem like a long time, but the fact of the matter is something like this does take a very long time, and there is a great deal of complexity, particularly as you can certainly understand when we're talking about trying to get to 100% affordability. It's not a simple matter. It's not a simple matter in terms of funding, in terms of potential, in terms of possibility, in terms of support and sources and all of that. And so these things take time, and it has been this amount of time that we have kind of brought it to this moment. And we appreciate you engaging with us all of this time, but we still have a ways to go. And so my concern is that if we move forward right now with the public review process, it will inexorably shorten the time frame where these very complex issues need to be dealt with in the midst of an election cycle, in the midst of candidates who are claiming and proclaiming their support for this, and we need all of that support. And so the question to you is, one, maybe it's a statement, we would like this to be delayed without any question, but assuming if it is not delayed, is there a way to postpone at any point during this, to postpone the process, to push it out if we are making headway in various various parts of this this plan and this project? That's my first question to you.
Sure. Thank you, Richard, for that. What I'd like to note is that the July action starts the public review process. Following the July action, we then have to issue a notice. So I'm restating some of what the points I made earlier, because there's an opportunity to continue the engagement on the project through the coming months, from when we issue the notice to when the public hearing is organized to when the comment period is also open and when it closes. And the date for final approvals for the project is yet to be determined. So that timeline just lays out the steps of what will happen following the July action, but it doesn't close the door for there to be more time for continued engagement on the project. The important thing to note is the directive from for LMDC related to the subsidiary closing and the necessary transfer of the site from LMDC to ESD. So that is an important timing to consider. But I'll note again that this July action is just the start of the process and doesn't close the door for continued discussions around increased affordability on the project.
Just to follow up on that, what deadline has HUD given for the closure? And if we could get HUD to back away from that, does that extend or offer us a greater opportunity to resolve?
I think there's an
those issues?
opportunity to be able to have that discussion if there is that direction from HUD. The understanding that I'm given right now, my last understanding is that LMDC is expected to be able to close out the grant by sometime in 2023.
Okay, so then thank you, Toby. Then my comment is in support of what's been said here. The community board and obviously the coalition and a number of our elected officials and candidates as well have been calling for a number of changes, not the least of which, of course, is the 100% affordability in this plan. And while I appreciate that ESDC and LMDC and UTOBY have engaged with us all along, and I certainly believe in good faith, it is disappointing that there has been no fundamental change other than the big one of the bifurcation of the plans that you described, but no other concession to the calls for increased affordability, larger community space, and so on. Not any at this point, and that is disappointing. And so I would support, Patrick, a resolution, at the very least, calling that out, that the things that the community board has been asking for, by and large, have not been addressed as yet in any way.
All right, thanks, Richard. All right, look, we're not slated for a resolution tonight. Not that that's always a problem, but I think pointing out the time constraints, and I don't mean the hour of the night, I mean the date of the month and when this meeting will occur. I think our best course of action, given that we are on record with other resolutions, is to so Jason, can you mute yourself, bud? Is to formulate a chair's letter while reviewing this video and making sure that we capture all of these points and attaching our prior resolutions on that'll have a lot more effect. We're going to move on to the next item that we have, which is an update on the Fulton Stall Market. Thank you, Toby. I'm sorry, I was a little too quick there.
No worries. Thank you, Patrick.
Trying to be efficient. Yeah, thank you. And I assure folks we will get that chair's letter in draft and get it out so everyone will have a chance to review it. Moving on to the second item, let's go.
Patrick, can you tell us where this meeting is on the 19th?
I don't know.
Toby, can you share that information?
I will be able to provide details of the LMDC meeting, which will be on the 19th, and the ESD meetings to the board, and that could be distributed accordingly.
If you can send this
We'll
to
put it in our newsletter.
Okay, great.
and we just need to know the deadline for sign up as well for public comment, because if it is Friday or Monday, we want to make sure people know.
Will do. Thank you.
Actually, I'm sorry. I just found it. It took me a little bit to find it, and I will say public comment is due by 4 p.m. on Monday, the 18th.
Great.
Dad, we're taking a picture.
Love it. All right. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks a lot, Patrick.
So we have Stephen from the Fulton Stall Market. Stephen, are you with us?
I am. Thank you very much. I was trying to figure out how to share my screen very quickly, but I'm afraid I might, I don't want to close out anything. And so, in the sake of time, I'm just going to start. My name is Stephen Dima. I'm the president of the board of the nonprofit Fulton Market Association, which oversees the Fulton Stall Market. and its mission. And before I start, I want to thank the community board for their support
Chins
and,
up, guys. Chins up.
and for adding us.
Sorry, Stephen, 1 second.
That's okay.
Lucian, I don't have host controls, but I need you to mute Jason Friedman, please.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute Jason. Jason, if you keep on muting yourself, if I'm gonna have to move you to attendee.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right, Stephen, thank you. Carry on.
Well, I just wanted to thank the board for your support and publicly and for adding us tonight. And of course, publicly thanking Council Member Christopher Marte and Land Use Director Connor Allerton, as well as Howard Hughes and EDC for their support, who have continued to meet with us and discuss how we can work together to fulfill this very important mission, which is basically to fulfill what was promised to the community in the 2013 New York City Council Land Use Resolution, a 10,000 square foot farmers public market with multi-independent vendors. We last spoke to the Land Use Zoning and Economic Development Committee in July 2020, after which the full board issued a resolution supporting the Fulton Stone Marketing and asking EDC to clarify its posture and intent to fulfill the obligation made by New York City Council. Thank you for your leadership and support on our behalf. In this ongoing dialogue presently, Council Member Chris Marte has been visibly present and vocal in his strong support for a permanent multi-vendor farmers market, and we understand he has since conveyed his support to the board. The ongoing dialogue with EDC and Howard Hughes relates to the offer by EDC for us to occupy 3,500 square feet at the rear end of the first floor of the city-owned Translux building, which is 130 Beekman, leased by EDC to Howard Hughes in 2020, containing a demisement of this size area for the market. We've been very vocal on the needs of the market to operate successfully. I wanted to show you a layout of the market. One of the things that's very important is a corridor, which would be accessible from both ends to facilitate and generate significant public interest and foot traffic as a unique destination, which an important part is obviously to meet the food needs and preferences of the community. We submitted a proposal to EDC to include a 16 market, to include 16 market stalls, assuring the full product mix. The stall areas to be designed in consultation with farmers and producers to accommodate their equipment for product display, storage, and food preparation. We also, the second floor is sort of vital, as we've just explained to them. We have multiple nutritional education demonstrations and a teaching kitchen, which would be on the second floor to support public education programming, cooking demos, classes and events for community residents, school children, food entrepreneurs with seating for attendees. This is vital to the economic vitality of the market. We've gotten multiple grants over the years from the city for all these programs, and a larger space would definitely be necessary and would work, we believe, on the second floor. There's other stuff, second floor bathrooms, a space for our very successful, highly successful community supported agriculture, the CSA operations, and then outdoor space for a seasonal farmers market with up to 15 farmer stalls, similar to what we're doing now. The outdoor market was on the pier in Fulton Street. It's now on south between, right across from the Tin Building, which is where it started historically. In 2009, that was where the Fulton Stone Market was created, utilizing the old fish stalls. So it's, I think it's fantastic to be back there. As you all know, over the past 7 years, we've provided multiple community services, including our daily indoor farmers market, the outdoor farmers market, our CSA Farm Share, Meet the Farmer, and nutritional workshops for school classes and families, and fresh food access initiatives for low-income families, and have supported over 125 local farmers and producers. We appreciate this opportunity to update the community. We have presented to EDC a vision for the full-scale multi-vendor farmers market for the Translux, including information from a team of graduating Columbia University Sustainable Development students who assisted us this spring in identifying local farmer interest and developing some of the architectural plans and pro formas. We're here to ask, I'm here to ask on behalf of the board and the market, to ask for your continued support and hope that you can once again represent this promise that was made to the community, to the mayor's office, city council, as well as EDC and Howard Hughes. And that's, I edited it while we were getting closer to 8 o'clock. So that's just our first.
And thank you for that, Stephen.
Yeah.
You know, I will say before we turn to any member of public questions that we continue to be impressed with how hard you guys are fighting, and certainly I don't think you'd have a member of CB1 who wouldn't continue to show their support for the Fulton Stall market. I'm gratified to know that you're getting a lot of help out of the council member's office, it seems, and that that you're, you know, they're hopefully going to be able to do a lot of talking on your behalf.
Yes.
So I'm seeing no questions from folks on our committee or in the public. So I want to thank you, Stephen, for your time. As soon as I said that,
Bob Schneck, yeah.
Bob Schneck has his hand up.
yes,
Yep.
thanks, Vicky.
Sorry.
Bob, that's okay.
Okay, am I on?
You are.
I just wanted to say I'm just very concerned for the Fulton Stall market for many years. I'm sure all of us have gone by it and noticed that it's always been on Fulton Street as you kind of go across to the South Street Seaport. And then within less than 24 hours or less than 48 hours maybe, it was shifted along that kind of dark corridor along the street with just so Howard Hughes could have various kinds of, the last thing they did is they had a pile of sand that said South Street Seaport on it. I think it's very important to restore that. And I think it's very important for the community board to once again pass a resolution even tonight that says we're really interested in this, making sure we sustain the presence of this market. I've always thought that this is an opportunity to do what we call building back better. And I've always been impressed with the Reading terminal market in Philadelphia. And I think New York needs such a thing. And I really think we need lots of programs for healthy food, for healthy living, and to make sure that the relationship with the farmers that was set up starting in 1950, maybe 1915 by the city of New York, that was kind of followed through on by Mayor LaGuardia. And then there was a huge effort when Christine Quinn was the speaker of the council to kind of make all this permanent. So I really think there's an opportunity to do that. And I really hope that this community board can kind of fall behind that and make some major statements, because I'm really worried that the Fulton Stall market really needs a lot of support right now because it doesn't get any from the developer. So that's my comment.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate the comments. I would note we don't have this on for a resolution, and we did put this on as a last minute add to our agenda for tonight. But that doesn't mean that we can't continue to work with leadership of Community Board 1 in the meantime. The council member's office, bring our friends here back in September, and perhaps we'll have a little bit more of a fulsome conversation and really nail down what it is that we think we can ask of our city leaders for that.
I just wanted to say that one important thing is restoring the weekend presence of the farmers back on the Fulton Street rather than on South Street, because there just isn't any action there and it's wilting.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Bob. Vicky, you had your hand up, or have you taken it down? It seems you've taken it down.
I just wanted to support what Bob was saying. It's so important to have fresh food, and affordable food. And if we can do anything we can to support the location, the visibility, I just want to thank Bob for saying that.
Yes, and thank you to Stephen and the
Thank you all.
entire board of the Fulton Stall Market for bringing us that update. Stephen, we'll visit with you in the background a bit over the coming weeks to see if there's a little bit more that we can do if you need our assistance. And when we're able to plan for it a little bit better. But thanks for coming on sort of short notice and giving us this much of an update. We do appreciate it. And thanks to Bob and Vicky and other members for your thoughtful questions and comments. All right, folks, with that, we're at the end of our agenda. Thank you for joining the July 2022 meeting of the Land Use, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee. We'll see you all at the full board, and then after that, you get 1 month off. And then we'll see you guys in September.
Thank you, Patrick. Good night.
Patrick.
Everybody.
Patrick, have a good night.
Bye, everyone.
Everybody.